Captain Jalen Reeve adjusted the gold-trimmed cuffs of his ceremonial uniform, the deep navy fabric shimmering faintly beneath the twin suns of Miravel. Around him, the royal gardens buzzed with guests from across the stars, diplomats, emissaries, warlords, and scientists all gathered to witness the unprecedented union of a human captain and an alien princess. Jalen was a man of structure and purpose, a veteran of the Terran frontlines and a man who had bled for peace. He never imagined he would marry, much less across species. But then he met Princess Erixia of the Marin. She had approached him during a diplomatic summit 6 months ago, with silver skin that shimmered like starlight and eyes like molten crystal. She had demanded to know why the humans were so quiet in council meetings. He'd replied with dry sarcasm. She'd laughed. That night, they talked until dawn. The rest had happened faster than he could rationally explain. And now here he stood, a bouquet of hellerosas in hand, waiting. The ceremony began with an ancient Marin chant, melodic and low, echoing through the crystalline trees. Erixia approached the altar, her gown made of interwoven strands of living silk beasts, flowing like water around her frame. Her attendants flanked her, carrying sacred symbols of Marin culture, a flame orb, a memory blossom, and a crystal of unity. Jalen met her eyes and felt the solid ground beneath his boots shift slightly. Not from the earthquake they'd predicted this week, but from the emotion that welled in his chest. He saluted. She smiled. And together, they stepped into the shared light of the twin suns. They exchanged vows written in both their languages. You are the calm after my storm, she whispered in Terran, her accent making the words sound like music. And you are the fire that refuses to be put out, he answered in Marin. The crowd erupted in cheers. Music from Marin wind instruments and Terran strings fused into a strange but beautiful symphony. After the kiss, the real Marin traditions began. There were 7 days of rituals to complete before the honeymoon. But Jalen had been promised one thing above all, quiet. Princess Erixia had sworn their honeymoon would be in the southern cliffs of Antheri, a secluded paradise, no politics, no councils, just them. She had lied. Part 2, The Ship with No Destination. The next morning, Jalen expected to board a diplomatic shuttle toward Antheri. Instead, Erixia led him to a stealth-class cruiser parked in a private hangar. Where are we going? Jalen asked, raising an eyebrow. An adventure, she said sweetly. That doesn't sound like cliffs. Cliffs will be involved. The ship's interior was sleek, with curves and living tech that responded to Erixia's touch. As soon as the doors sealed, the engines ignited with a hum so smooth it felt like they were gliding. Care to explain? You asked for quiet. But I promised more than silence. I promised something unforgettable. Within the first day, Jalen discovered hidden compartments of weapons aboard, an AI that refused to identify its creator, and a stowaway Marin monk who claimed he was there to watch over the Celestial Union. Erixia remained infuriatingly vague. This isn't a warship, is it? Not in the traditional sense. By day 3, they had crossed into disputed starfields. Pirates pursued them. By day 4, Erixia revealed that she had stolen an ancient artifact from her own family vault. Why? Because you married not just a princess, but a revolutionary. He blinked. You could have mentioned that before I said, I do. Would you have still married me? He hesitated. Exactly, she said, and kissed him. Part 3, The Stars Between Their Fingers. The cruiser became their new world. Between firefights and escape maneuvers, they found stolen hours beneath the starlight dome of the observation deck. Why me? Jalen asked one night, his voice low. Because you listen. You don't flinch when truth cuts deep. And you're not afraid of getting your hands bloody, he replied. They kissed like lovers on borrowed time. Erixia told him about the Marin Council's rot, the ancient weapon she hoped to use not for war, but for leverage. She believed in peace, but peace born from strength. You're planning a coup, he realized. I'm planning to give my people a future. You're free to walk away. He didn't walk. Instead, he helped her calibrate the weapon. Part 4, Blood and Promise. They were ambushed in the Threxian Nebula. A bounty had been placed on both their heads. The Marin High Regent had declared Eryxia dead in a shuttle crash. They want us erased, Jalen said, scanning the reports. Then we become myth, Eryxia replied. Their ship took damage. Jalen was injured in the engine room. Eryxia dragged him out, their hands stained in blood, smoke curling around them. Don't die, she ordered. You married a soldier, he gasped. I die well. Not today. They survived, barely. But the moment bonded them beyond ceremony. Part 5, Fire at the Gate. They reached Miravel again, not as diplomats but as insurgents. Eryxia broadcasted the truth across the system, evidence of corruption, lies, betrayal. She activated the ancient weapon, not to destroy, but to disable all council warships. People rallied. Protests erupted planet-wide. Jalen stood by her side in the central plaza, facing down elite guards with only his sidearm. You should have had your quiet honeymoon, she whispered. This is better, he said, and fired the first shot. Part 6, Honeymoon Under Fireworks. With the council in collapse, a new age began. They finally escaped to Antheri. Not for hiding, but for healing. On the cliffs, Jalen watched Eryxia standing beneath the stars. I never expected this, he said. Me neither. But I knew it would be more than quiet. She curled into him. I love you, human. And I love the alien who ruined my quiet life. Far above, the remnants of the council exploded in silent fireworks. And beneath them, a love born in chaos found its peace. The next morning, Captain Jalen Reeve rolled over to find the silk-sheeted bed beside him cold. Princess Eryxia was already gone. He sat up groggily, his muscles sore from the endless standing, bowing, and handshaking of yesterday's royal ceremony. His eyes trailed along the ornate walls of their temporary Marin Palace suite, tracking the twisting filigree of bioluminescent vines embedded in the walls. For a moment, he allowed himself to hope today might be the start of the quiet honeymoon he'd been promised. That hope died the moment the palace steward knocked at the door. Captain Reeve, the green-scaled Marin servant said with a bow. Her radiance awaits you at Hangar 17. Jalen blinked. Hangar 17. I thought we were heading to Antheri in a royal shuttle. The steward offered a noncommittal blink. Her radiance asked me to say, bring your sidearm. Hangar 17 was a private bay beneath the palace, surrounded by layers of shielding and security. Jalen passed retinal scanners and ceremonial guards until he found Eryxia waiting beside a sleek, obsidian-black cruiser that shimmered like liquid metal in the harsh lights. That is not a shuttle, Jalen said flatly. Eryxia turned, silver skin glowing faintly in the shadowy light, a gleam of mischief in her eyes. You're right, she said, stepping toward him in a travel suit tailored for utility, not luxury. It's better. Where are the robes? The attendants? The Marin wine tastings and scented baths? We'll have scented baths. Eventually. Get in. Jalen sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose. You said. Quiet honeymoon. I did. And you'll get that. Eventually. First, adventure. The ramp lowered. He hesitated. You trust me, don't you? She asked. He looked into her eyes. Deep down, he already knew this was going to be a mess. But he nodded anyway. The cruiser, called Isra's Wing, was a marvel of Marin engineering, organic components grown in zero-gravity crucibles, pulsing neural conduits instead of wiring, and a semi-sentient AI that responded to emotional resonance. Every corner of the vessel felt alive. How did you even get this ship? Jalen asked as he ran his fingers across a console that rippled like skin under his touch. Let's call it a wedding gift. From myself. He snorted. Stolen, then. Liberated, she corrected with a grin. Their quarters were smaller than the palace, but more intimate. A shared sleeping pod encased in flowering loam shells. A viewing dome with full-spectrum starlight settings. Even the dining alcove adjusted to cook both human and Marin food through molecular synthesis. Still not telling me where we're going, he asked over a breakfast of spiced seed cakes and Terran coffee synthesized from a memory crystal. I thought you liked surprises. I like knowing what quadrant I'm flying into. Then let me rephrase, we're going nowhere. He stared. The ship's NAV system is randomized. We're going to let fate take us. You're insane. Married me anyway. He took a slow sip of his coffee. So, you do admit this is payback for my bachelor party. She winked. By the end of day 1, Jalen had discovered 3 things. The cruiser had an illegal weapons cache hidden behind the meditation alcove. The onboard AI refused to acknowledge any standardized communication protocol. There was a cloaked passenger in the cargo hold. They found the stowaway when Jalen heard humming beneath the deck plates. Don't shoot, said a voice as he pointed his blaster. I'm here on a sacred mission. Out stepped an elderly Marin monk in gray and violet ceremonial wrappings. Brother Zevel, Eryxia said with an exasperated sigh. I told you to stay behind. And I told you that the celestial union must be witnessed by a seer of the 5th thread. Jalen blinked. The what now? Zevel gave a flourishing bow. Your union fulfills an ancient prophecy, Captain Reeve. You are the flame bearer. Fantastic, Jalen muttered. I married into a cult. Day 2 brought them to the outer rings of a derelict mining system. While cataloging mineral-rich debris fields, the cruiser was pinged by an unknown beacon. That's not one of ours, Jalen said, narrowing his eyes. Eryxia nodded. Pirates. He gritted his teeth. Of course. The ensuing chase was less a firefight and more an art piece. Izura's wing glided through the asteroid belt with acrobatic grace, dodging plasma bolts and dropping sensor phantoms. Hold still so I can shoot them. Jalen barked. You said you wanted excitement, Eryxia teased, hands dancing over the console. I wanted you, and I expected quiet. Same difference. He stared at her in disbelief as the pirate ship exploded behind them. I think I need another wedding contract. With clauses. Day 3 began with kisses in a zero-gravity corridor. They floated, limbs entwined, the ship humming softly around them. Tell me this isn't all for show, he murmured. It isn't. But it is for something. Like what? She looked into his eyes. You'll see. Later, in the navigation suite, Jalen found an encrypted Marin vault hidden within the ship's memory drive. What is this? Eryxia didn't answer immediately. Her shoulders tensed. That is something I wasn't planning to share yet. He folded his arms. It's an artifact, she said finally. Taken from the royal vault. It's called the Heart of Valyria. Jalen froze. You stole a godstone. Those things power cities. This one was powering a lie. I'm going to use it to tell the truth. He stepped closer. You married me under false pretenses. She raised a brow. Did I? You knew what I was. You just didn't ask how much. He sighed. You're a revolutionary. And you're a man who fell in love with one. Day 4, they entered the Shatter Fields, a war-torn sector left as neutral space after the border wars. Silence reigned. Until an ambush broke it. 3 ships decloaked, forming a net around them. Those aren't pirates, Jalen said. They're bounty hunters. The enemy ships opened fire. Eryxia dove into evasive maneuvers while Jalen manned the rear turret. Zevel chanted something in ancient Marin, calmly sipping tea as explosions rocked the ship. Do we even have shields? Minimal ones. But we do have an ace. Auryxia triggered a pulse from the Godstone. The entire battlefield shimmered, and their ship disappeared. Cloak Field, she explained. That was not in the wedding vows. You should have read the appendix. They limped away, hull scorched, fuel low. That night, Jalen tended to her wounds in the med bay. She winced as he wrapped a gash along her side. Tell me this gets easier, he said. It doesn't, she whispered. But it matters. He met her gaze. He didn't say it aloud. But in that moment, he knew, he wasn't going anywhere. She laid her forehead against his. You're mine now. No refunds. I should be terrified, he muttered. Are you? A little. Mostly turned on. She laughed, then kissed him. The stars beyond the viewport spun quietly. For the first time since leaving Miravel, they slept without armor. The third morning aboard Isra's wing began with silence. Not the programmed kind, this was real, weighty silence that stretched over the entire ship like a tension wire pulled taut. The kind of silence born from unspoken thoughts, from the heaviness of secrets revealed and choices made in motion. Captain Jalen Reeve lay awake in the cocoon-like sleep pod, watching the pale light of a nearby red dwarf pulse through the observation dome. He could feel her breathing beside him, Princess Auryxia, though they'd said little since the standoff with the bounty hunters. It wasn't anger that kept them quiet. It was gravity. She stirred. Red dwarfs make me melancholic, she murmured. Jalen turned his head toward her. Her eyes were half-lidded, her silver hair loose and drifting. Why? They burn low and long. Billions of years. It's like they're patient enough to watch every mistake made by every civilization they illuminate. He considered that. Maybe they're just waiting for someone to get it right. She chuckled softly. Maybe. He sat up. We need to talk about the artifact. The Godstone, Heart of Valyria. And about what you're really planning. Auryxia followed him to the narrow breakfast alcove. The food synthesizer hummed to life, producing a plate of Marin energy wafers and a steaming cup of Terran CAF. I'm not planning war, she said finally. I'm planning disruption. Precision. I want to show the Council that power doesn't come from inherited titles or family lines. It comes from choices. Jalen raised a brow. That sounds like revolution with extra steps. Semantics, she replied. They ate in silence for a while. The ship's AI, which had taken to calling itself Whisper, reported calm starfield readings. Whisper's voice was androgynous and crystalline. No detectable hostiles within range. You are now passing into the Apsira Veil. Jalen frowned. That's deep space. No stations. No settlements. Exactly, Auryxia said, her tone growing playful again. Perfect for what comes next. He stared at her. You keep saying that. What is next? She rose from the table, gestured for him to follow. Come. There's something I want you to see. The core chamber of Isra's wing was unlike any Terran design. Suspended in 0G was a crystalline sphere cradled by a lattice of neural filaments pulsing with faint biolight. Inside that sphere pulsed the heart of Valyria. Jalen had seen Godstones before, always behind military-grade shielding or embedded in planetary cores. This one throbbed like a heartbeat. Auryxia drifted beside it, placing her palm against the sphere's surface. The stone reacted instantly, radiating a soft violet glow. It's alive, Jalen murmured. Not in the way we are, she replied. But it remembers. It learns. That's what makes it dangerous. He reached out to touch the sphere but stopped inches short. What does it remember? Everything the Marin ever buried. Secrets. Lies. Atrocities hidden beneath royal charters and ceremonies. And what do you want to do with it? I want to make it speak. Whisper chimed in. Ship-wide transmission capability is linked to the Godstone's pulse rhythm. Activation will breach signal protocols across at least 17 star systems. You're going to tell the galaxy everything, Jalen realized. Auryxia nodded. Not just tell. Show. Memory constructs. Visual records. Truth, unfiltered. Jalen paced slowly around the sphere. If you do this, they'll come for us. Everyone. The Marin elite. Their allies. Even neutral systems threatened by instability. I know. And you're still doing it? Would you let it lie? She asked. He stared at her. No. She smiled. They floated there a while longer, two rebels in orbit of something ancient and powerful. Later, back on the observation deck, Auryxia pulled out a small holocube. Play this, she said. The cube expanded, casting a three-dimensional image of a lush world, Miravel as it had been centuries ago. Green skies, oceans that sparkled like turquoise fire, cities made of stone and living coral. Jalen watched as the image shifted. Now a battlefield. Now burning libraries. Now slaves in chains. This is what the Godstone stores, he asked. Just the surface. There are layers within layers. Not just history, emotion. Regret. Pride. Hatred. He swallowed. You're going to unleash all of that. I'm going to let people choose what they do with it. And if they choose war, then at least it's an honest war. That night, they lay wrapped together in the sleeping pod. Jalen couldn't sleep. You never answered my question, he whispered. Which one? Why me? She shifted, her fingers tracing patterns on his chest. Because you're the only man who ever looked at me and didn't see a princess first. He kissed her forehead. That's not true. It is. You saw a woman with blood on her hands. And you didn't flinch. I've got plenty on mine. She pulled him closer. Then maybe we deserve each other. Or maybe we'll destroy each other. Maybe. But at least it'll be real. And as they drifted into a sleep woven with uncertainty and defiance, the Godstone pulsed in rhythm with their hearts. Day 5 aboard Isra's wing began with turbulence. Not from enemy fire, or celestial interference, but from within. The ship's semi-organic systems twitched and strained, reacting to the volatile presence of the heart of Valyria and the emotions of the two people closest to it. Captain Jalen Reeves snapped upright in the sleeping pod. Sweat coated his brow. Did the ship just flinch? Auryxia was already up, dressed in a light battleweave suit. It's adjusting. Whispers still sinking with the Godstone. She's adapting. She. Auryxia nodded. Whispers evolving. The heart's presence is accelerating her cognition. Jalen rubbed his face. Great. An AI with divine trauma. They gathered in the bridge chamber, where starfields drifted in holographic projections. Whisper's voice now had faint harmonics, like a choir singing beneath crystal. I have processed 6 trillion data points from the Godstone's mnemonic field, Whisper said. The artifact is attempting to broadcast. To where? Jalen asked. Everywhere, Auryxia answered. It's been dormant for centuries, absorbing pain. Now it wants to purge. Whisper confirmed. There are coordinates forming within its pulse. A location, the Nithari wound. Jalen frowned. That's dead space. Not anymore, Auryxia murmured. They jumped through the Veil corridor, arriving at the Nithari wound, a collapsed system from the last cycle, where time was fractured and space hummed like a broken harp string. Debris floated like frozen ghosts. But at its center, a sphere of perfect blackness. Whisper trembled. I cannot penetrate its surface. The Godstone can, Auryxia said. This is where the truth will burn brightest. Jalen pulled her aside. Eryxia. You can still stop this. We can disappear. Find a moon. Grow old. Her eyes glistened. That's your dream, Jalen. I love it. But I was born for this. He cupped her face. Then let me stand with you. Even if it kills us. Activating the heart sent a shockwave through the Nithari wound. Light and memory erupted into space, creating visions in the void. Marin kings bathing in blood under starlight. Whole cities erased to silence descent. The chaining of star beasts to fuel noble palaces. A young princess crying in a glass cell. Every sin poured forth, unfiltered, undeniable. Across systems, the signal was received. Protests began on colonies. Nobles fled worlds. The Marin Council convened in panic. And bounty hunters were dispatched. They came like knives in the dark. 3 stealth cruisers breached the veil, surrounding Izra's wing. Prepare to be boarded, crackled a harsh voice. Return the Godstone and surrender the traitor princess. Jalen took the weapon's console. We're not surrendering. Eryxia loaded a plasma javelin. I was hoping you'd say that. What followed was chaos. Explosive decompressions. Flickering hull integrity. Whisper screaming warnings. Jalen shot down a boarding pod mid-dock. Eryxia took out another with a precision gravity mine. But the third breached. Armored troops swarmed the core deck. Jalen was dragged back by 2 of them, disarmed. Eryxia stood between them and the Godstone. You want it? She hissed. Then let it judge you. She activated its defensive field. The invaders collapsed, screaming, clawing their helmets off. Visions of Marin sins overwhelmed them. One began praying. Another turned his blaster on himself. Jalen broke free. Together, he and Eryxia sealed the core deck. They escaped. But barely. The Godstone now pulsed dangerously, too hot to approach. We need to let it rest, Whisper said. Or it will break the ship apart. They set course for the Drift Hollows, a neutral zone of old ruins and ancient machines. There, in the belly of a crumbling station, Eryxia and Jalen shared a moment of stillness. You didn't have to follow me, she whispered. I didn't, he said. But I did anyway. She smiled. I think that's what love is. Jalen held her close. Then I'm yours. Even if the stars burn out. She kissed him. Not with fire, but with the quiet resolve of a queen who had lost everything but gained something sacred. Truth. And him. The Drift Hollows were older than history. A graveyard of civilizations, where ancient machines sang in frequencies no mind could interpret. Beneath the skeletal arms of collapsed starships, among cathedral-sized processors and dead suns, Jalen and Eryxia carved out hours of fragile peace. For a day, they had silence. Then came the message. Whisper projected it across the ruined atrium, a flickering hologram of Empress Tavrana, Eryxia's aunt, the ruling matriarch of the Marin dynasty. Eryxia, the Empress intoned, return home. You have proven your point. Let the past die with dignity. Come back, and I will pardon you and the Terran. The Godstone will be sealed. The galaxy does not need your chaos. The hologram glitched. Your war will only make orphans of 1,000 stars. It vanished. Jalen exhaled. Do you think she means it? Eryxia stared at the empty space. She never means anything. Except power. Whisper chimed in. A long-range cruiser approaches. 1 vessel. Royal codes. Flagship, Valkyrian. Eryxia turned to Jalen. She's coming herself. He nodded. Then it ends here. The Valkyrian was more cathedral than ship, armored in crystalline plates, glowing with sacred symbols. It drifted into orbit above the drift hollows like a god descending from myth. A shuttle launched. Eryxia insisted on meeting it alone. Jalen followed anyway. The shuttle landed in silence. Ramped down. From its depths emerged Empress Tavrana, draped in living silk, flanked by guards in armor that whispered. "Eryxia," she said with quiet authority. "Aunt," Eryxia replied. Tavrana eyed Jalen. The Terran. A soldier disgraced. A human thief. He's more than you'll ever understand. The Empress studied her niece. "You're thin. Tired. All of this, to show the people what? That their bloodlines lie. That memory is more sacred than order." Eryxia stood her ground. "That truth is more sacred than you." Tavrana sighed. "You would have ruled. You would have been a symbol. Now you are a ghost clinging to fire." "Fire burns lies to ash," Eryxia said. The Empress turned to leave. "Then burn, child. Burn." Guards stepped forward. Weapons raised. Jalen drew first. Blasters lit the ruins. It was not a war. It was a family ending. Jalen and Eryxia fought together. He shot from cover. She wielded a Marin blade of pure graviton energy. One by one, the guards fell, not to power, but to belief. Tavrana activated a beacon. "I summon the Ether Guard. This is Imperial matter." But Whisper jammed the call. "No," the AI said. "This is a reckoning." The final standoff came in the ruins of an old Senate hall. Eryxia faced her aunt, the Empress drawing a weapon forged from a Starcore shard. "You dare challenge legacy?" Tavrana hissed. "I challenge fear," Eryxia shouted. They fought. And in the end, Eryxia stood over her aunt's defeated form. "I won't kill you," she said. Tavrana spat blood. "Then you're weak." "No. I'm free." The heart of Valyria pulsed one final time. Its data spilled into the void. Across the galaxy, monarchies fell. Old truths became poison. New alliances formed. Republics rose where thrones once ruled. Not everywhere. But enough. And Isra's wing disappeared into the edges of mapped space. Months later, in a quiet system orbiting a twin-sun planet, a home had been built. A garden grew. Whisper tended the crops with robotic grace. Eryxia walked barefoot on alien soil, dressed simple, hair braided. Jalen fixed the old weather vane. "Storm's coming." She smiled. "Let it. We've seen worse." He walked to her, took her hand. "We burned a throne," he said. "What now?" "We build something better." Their lips met. Not in desperation. But in peace. A kind earned by fire. And kept by love.